A 10-second penalty. A double DNF. A title dream in danger. Oscar Piastri's race unraveled in seconds, and now the FIA admits they may have made a mistake. He was punished for a move that ended Leclerc's day and wrecked Antonelli's, but was it really his fault? 3 races left. 24 points behind. One bad call could cost him the championship. It happened in the blink of an eye: a racing restart, a daring move from a title contender, and then chaos. As the dust settled at Interlagos, Oscar Piastri's orange McLaren sat wounded, 10 seconds away from a potential podium, and now, it turns out, 10 seconds too many. The FIA has privately admitted it may have gone too far. That the penalty which reshaped the Brazilian Grand Prix and potentially the World Championship was, in their own words, harsh. The penalty was swift. Too swift, perhaps. On lap 10, Piastri launched a move into turn 1, battling Andrea Antonelli for position. Contact. A ricochet. Leclerc collected. 3 cars affected, 1 race destroyed, and the stewards didn't hesitate. 10 seconds for Piastri, no review mid-race, no margin for context. He dropped out of contention immediately. But as replays surfaced and angles multiplied, one truth emerged: this was a racing incident. And the decision? A potential overreach. For Piastri, the timing couldn't have been worse. After dominating much of the mid-season, he entered Brazil just 24 points behind his teammate Lando Norris. With only 3 races left, every position matters. Every second counts. And in that moment, a 10-second penalty wasn't just a setback, it became a symbolic turning point. The FIA didn't just punish a move. They may have tipped the balance of an entire championship. What makes this moment sting even more is Piastri's maturity. He didn't lash out. He didn't blame the stewards. He accepted the decision with calm, focus, and poise. But the silence from the FIA since Sunday spoke volumes, and only now, behind closed doors, is the admission beginning to surface. That perhaps, just perhaps, a title-contending driver was penalized without the full weight of evidence. This wasn't just another penalty. This was a rupture in trust between drivers and race control, between the title fight and its guardians. If Oscar Piastri, driving with intelligence, control, and intent, can be penalized for a split-second decision in a congested pack, where does the line get drawn? And who decides it, when the margin between aggression and overambition is measured in milliseconds? And now, with Las Vegas looming and 83 points left on the table, the stakes are brutally clear. Piastri must claw back 24 points from a teammate in peak form, with a car that's frozen in development, and with the shadow of Brazil following him. Because if he loses this title by fewer than 10 points, this penalty may go down as the moment it slipped away. The incident happened at a critical moment in the Brazilian Grand Prix. After an early safety car period, the race was just beginning to settle. Oscar Piastri, starting from the second row, had made a clean getaway and found himself in a tight battle with Andrea Antonelli. Into turn 1, Piastri saw a gap on the inside, not wide, but enough for a committed move. He went for it. Antonelli turned in. The contact was slight, but the consequences were massive. The Mercedes was sent sideways, and behind them, Charles Leclerc had no time to react. The Ferrari was out on the spot. Within minutes, the stewards announced the verdict: a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision. No further deliberation. No notes about shared blame. It was classified as a clear-cut error, one that Piastri, on paper, owned entirely. But that decision triggered immediate debate across the paddock. Multiple ex-drivers, team principals, and analysts questioned the severity. Was it really a reckless dive? Or was it a racing incident, the kind we've seen countless times in midfield battles without penalty? The answer, it now seems, may favor the latter. Sources within the FIA, speaking off-record to multiple media outlets on Tuesday, admitted that the penalty might have been excessive given the circumstances. Internal reviews showed that Antonelli's own trajectory may have been overly defensive, cutting across slightly under braking. More importantly, Leclerc's crash, though dramatic, was not a direct consequence of Piastri's action, but of Antonelli's reaction. That nuance, not considered during the race, changes everything. If the incident had been reviewed with more time, the FIA now believes the result could have been either no penalty, or a 5-second time drop at most, one that would not have cost Piastri a podium. But in a race with championship implications, those distinctions matter. Piastri crossed the line in 5th, but without the 10-second add-on, he would have fought for 2nd. That's at least 12 points gone, possibly more. And with only 3 races left, those are championship points you never get back. This isn't the first time race control has faced criticism in 2025. But what makes this moment different is the driver involved. Oscar Piastri is known for his calculated style. He rarely makes contact. His wheel-to-wheel judgment has been praised across the grid. And yet, in a high-stakes moment, he was handed a race-altering punishment with no margin for context. That disconnect between what we know of Piastri and how the incident was judged is what triggered such backlash. The Brazilian Grand Prix was never going to decide the championship outright, but it may have decided the direction. And the problem is no longer just about what happened on lap 10. It's about what that decision revealed about inconsistency, interpretation, and how thin the margins are when you're chasing a world title. The MCL39 is a machine designed around stability and corner exit traction. McLaren has prioritized aerodynamic efficiency and clean airflow over sharp front-end rotation, particularly after mid-season upgrades that solidified its high-speed balance. For Oscar Piastri, a driver who excels in rhythm-based precision, that's been a blessing across traditional circuits. But Interlagos is different. It's narrow. It's off-camber. It rewards improvisation, the kind of instinctual aggression more often associated with his teammate, Lando Norris. On the lap 10 restart, the field was still packed tightly. Tires weren't up to peak temperature, grip was marginal, and track position meant everything. Piastri found himself boxed in behind Antonelli, with Leclerc just behind them both. The MCL39, even with optimal tire prep, takes a lap or two to build rhythm. But there was no time to wait. Piastri, seeing Antonelli slightly offline, went for the inside. It was a decisive move, yes, but not careless. The gap was there, and in championship terms, it was a move he had to make. The challenge is that the MCL39 doesn't tolerate scrappy positioning. It needs clean track to execute its balance. As Piastri moved under braking, the weight shift unsettled the car slightly, nothing major, but enough to limit how tightly he could hold the inside line. Antonelli, in contrast, defended later and more aggressively than expected, cutting across without fully clearing the McLaren. The two trajectories converged. And while Piastri touched Antonelli's car, the MCL39 remained composed, suggesting he had control throughout. McLaren's post-race data confirmed it. There was no spike in brake pressure, no sudden lockup, no irregular steering input. In short, Piastri didn't dive bomb. He committed to a move, maintained his line, and made light contact that spiraled due to circumstance. That distinction is vital. Because the FIA's decision, issued within minutes, didn't seem to reflect any review of driving inputs or onboard telemetry. It looked like a decision made on optics, not evidence. Another key factor is car philosophy. The MCL39 uses a stiff front end to generate precision through medium-speed corners, but that stiffness makes it harder to correct mid-corner once committed. Drivers like Norris have adapted by dancing the car in rotation, but Piastri prefers to lock in direction earlier and manage throttle load carefully. That same trait, which makes him so good in stable conditions, becomes a vulnerability in chaotic, low-grip environments like Interlagos. It means his options, once he's committed, are narrower. And yet, none of that nuance factored into the stewards' ruling. No consideration of how the McLaren behaves under restart compression. No attention to how Antonelli's own line may have contributed. No reflection on how minimal the contact actually was. For a car designed to be smooth, and for a driver trained to deliver under control, Brazil's chaos punished Piastri not for recklessness but for staying calm when others didn't. For most of the season, Oscar Piastri has looked unshakable. Cool under pressure. Measured in the media. Ruthlessly consistent on track. But after Brazil, something shifted, not in the way he drove, but in the way the sport began to frame him. A driver once seen as the calculated predator in McLaren orange is now fighting a different battle, perception. Because when penalties shape points, and points shape titles, the storyline around you begins to change fast. Piastri didn't crumble in Brazil. That's what makes the outcome so frustrating. He raced cleanly. He didn't lose his temper. He handled the FIA's decision with class. But the emotional impact was visible. After the race, he skipped most interviews, issued only a short team statement, and left the paddock earlier than usual. Not in anger but in quiet frustration. For a driver who has delivered relentlessly in just his second full season, this wasn't just a setback. It was a personal blow. The narrative that followed hit hard. Norris takes control of the title fight. Headlines across Europe and the US declared that the balance had shifted. McLaren's other star, the more experienced, more media-savvy Lando Norris, now led by 24 points, with only 3 races left. And crucially, he was the one walking away from Brazil with momentum. Piastri, despite driving with precision and resolve, was left defending a race he barely got to finish. And the margin of error is now gone. 24 points can evaporate quickly: 1 DNF, 1 wet qualifying, 1 mechanical fault. But psychologically, it feels like more. Because this was Piastri's moment to strike. After struggling in the Mexico sprint, Brazil was supposed to be his bounce back, a place where he could regain confidence and reduce the gap. Instead, it became the race where he lost ground despite doing almost everything right. This is the invisible weight of a title campaign. It's not just about speed. It's about timing, luck, and narrative control. Drivers who fight for championships, especially their first, often talk about the emotional exhaustion. Every session matters. Every quote becomes a headline. And every steward's call feels like a personal verdict. Piastri is feeling that now. And he's feeling it while trying to chase down a teammate who's driving at the peak of his powers.